What's up, everybody? This is Alex Christoforou with the Duran, and I have with me Alexander Mercouris, editor-in-chief of the Duran. And today we're going to be talking about Rosenstein's testimony. So, Alexander, yesterday was a big day in testimonies to the House Intelligence Committee and in Congress and on Capitol Hill. We saw Peter Strzok give testimony, closed-door testimony, so we don't have very many details about what was said and what questioning was given to him. But the Rod Rosenstein and Christoforou one was out in the open. It was for all the public to see, and it was quite contentious. I mean, there was tension, no doubt about it. And Rosenstein's an interesting character. You've mentioned it many times that he's an interesting character. He's the Assistant Attorney General. He wields a lot of power, and a lot of people think he's the man behind much of the Russia-Trump collusion, Mueller hoax investigation, all this stuff that's going on, the Hillary Clinton email scandal, everything. So break it down for us. How did you see Rod Rosenstein's testimony? What were your first impressions?
Well, the short answer is that he's stonewalled. I mean, he's stonewalled on the progress of the Mueller investigation. He said, let's keep it going until whenever. He didn't give any indication of what progress it was making or how it would proceed or whether it would end any time soon or anything about that. And he was also very pressed about the fact that the Justice Department and the FBI have been very, very slow in releasing documents. I mean, slow is perhaps a huge understatement. They've been incredibly persistent to releasing information, both about the Clinton email investigation and about the Russiagate investigation. They've been pushed and pushed by the Congress, by the various committees of the Congress, the House Intelligence Committee, the Senate Intelligence Committee, the House Judiciary Committee, which is what he appeared before yesterday. He's been pushed they've been pushed all the time. They've been resisting doing it. He gave absolutely nothing away on that. He refused to accept that there was anything wrong. He insisted against, I think, in defiance of all fact and logic, that all the proper procedures were being followed, and he seemed to deny that he had any particular role in doing anything as the man in charge. So I think it was a classic stonewall by a man who is obviously a very experienced lawyer and knows how to do it in a way that makes him look best, but I think which convinced very few people except Democratic Party partisans who are now heavily invested in this thing. That was my overall impression.
But before we get into a couple of videos that I want to zero in on, some of the back and forth that I want to zero in on, and I want your analysis, I'll ask you a very basic question about how you saw Rosenstein. This is how I saw him. I saw a very smug, may I say, a little conceited type of person. Would you agree on that assessment, or?
Oh, I think he has a very high opinion of himself. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, he frankly, was at times, I thought, very condescending to the people who were asking him questions. I mean, his attitude was, I am the Deputy Attorney General of the United States. I'm a far cleverer, more knowledgeable person than you. I know all the details of everything, and I'm not going to answer your questions, which I don't consider to be weighty questions, but I see as a sort of meddling interference on my job. I mean, I don't think it was a good impression, actually. I think he made a bad impression, and I think if you look at the way people responded on threads to these various, this testimony he gave, I think it was very negative, and I think that was exactly how most people reacted. The one thing I would say about him is, as I said, he is a lawyer, and he does know how to stonewall, but he did it in such an unapologetic way that I think the optics were very bad.
Okay, let's zero in on two, I would say probably the most popular right now interactions that are going viral on social media, and a lot of people are giving their opinions on these two interactions. They were Trey Gowdy and Jim Jordan. So let's zero in on the Trey Gowdy one first. I'm going to show a video. And I want you to, after the video, Alexander, I want you to just break down how you saw this interaction between Trey Gowdy and Rosenstein. And I want to focus on two things that Trey Gowdy said in the interaction, the video we're going to play. The one thing that he said is justice delayed is justice denied. And then he closes out his interaction with Rosenstein by pretty much telling him to just end this thing, end the whole, you know, Hillary email, Russiagate thing, because it's tearing apart the country. So I'm going to play the video, and when we come back after the jump, I want you to give your thoughts on it.
So this is where we are. We're 2 years into this investigation. We're a year and a half into the presidency. We're over a year into special counsel. You have a counterintelligence investigation that's become public. You have a criminal investigation that's become political. You have more bias than I have ever seen manifest in a law enforcement officer in the 20 years I used to do it for a living. And 4 other DOJ employees who had manifest animus towards the person they were supposed to be neutrally and detachedly investigating. Democrats are using this investigation as a presumption of guilt, which I find astonishing. And in the long run, for the health of this republic, I would encourage them to go back to the presumption of innocence that we used to hold sacred. There's a presumption of guilt. There's a desire by Democrat senators to fundraise off of your investigation. More than 60 Democrats have already voted to proceed with impeachment before Bob Mueller has found a single solitary damn thing. More than 60 have voted to move forward with impeachment, and he hasn't presented his first finding. So I'm going to say this to you, Mr. Ray, Mr. Rosenstein. I realize that neither one of you were there when this happened, but you're both there now. Russia attacked this country. They should be the target, but Russia isn't being hurt by this investigation right now. We are. This country is being hurt by it. We are being divided. We've seen the bias. We've seen the bias. We need to see the evidence. If you have evidence of wrongdoing by any member of the Trump campaign, present it to the damn grand jury. If you have evidence that this president acted inappropriately, present it to the American people. There's an old saying that justice delayed is justice denied. I think right now all of us are being denied. Whatever you got, finish it the hell up, because this country is being torn apart. I would yield back, Mr. Chair.
All right, Alexander, what did you think of this interaction between Gowdy and Rosenstein?
Well, first of all, Gowdy, as I have discussed before in previous videos, which we have done, is a trained federal prosecutor. I mean, there's suggestions that Donald Trump even considered him as a possible Attorney General of the United States. So this is somebody who knows what he's talking about. And I think Gowdy made a number of extremely powerful points. The first point that he made is that this thing has been going on and on and on. We're now almost 2 years from the formal start of this investigation. It formally began on the 31st of July. 2016. It's actually much, it went on for much before that, as we now are starting to learn. And as Gowdy absolutely rightly says, it's caused enormous amount of political tension in the country. It's given all sorts of ideas in people's minds about whether Donald Trump is a trustworthy person to be president of the United States. And in fact, in spite of all these years of investigation, it has achieved absolutely nothing. It has failed completely to prove its underlying thesis that there was collusion between Donald Trump, Donald Trump's election campaign, and the Russians. And now, Rosenstein stonewalled on that. He pretended that, you know, the investigation still has some way to go because there might be things nobody knows about, which the investigation is still looking into. And he said that we should wait until all that's seen. Now, the fact is, we all know, because we've seen all the evidence that there is now. We know that there isn't anything more, nothing of any substance. So I'm afraid Rosenstein there was being, frankly, I think, I'm almost going to say, I think he was being frankly dishonest. I don't think he was telling the truth on this and at the same time, he's clearly not prepared to close the Mueller investigation down. The other thing that Gowdy said, and I think he made a very powerful point, he said that over the course of this investigation, the whole concept of the burden of proof that a person is deemed innocent until he is proved guilty has been thrown out of the window. If you read so many of the mainstream newspapers of the United States over the course of this matter, they have consistently assumed that there is some dark and terrible secret that Donald Trump is hiding, that the Trump campaign is hiding, that there's some mysterious connection between him and the Russians, and of course we know that isn't so. And Gowdy is absolutely right in saying that the effect of this investigation has been to give force to all of those ideas. Now, Rosenstein didn't address that point at all. So we had a passionate statement, both of the law and of the practical realities from Gowdy, and we had, as I said before, a stonewall from Rosenstein. He didn't respond to it, he's not responded to it, he's simply refusing to respond in any substantive way. And the one thing that he says that there's possibly things waiting to come out, well, that just isn't true.
So, I mean, I think it's a rhetorical question to ask you, but objectively speaking, as a trained lawyer and a legal mind, you would say that in this interaction, Gowdy definitely won the day.
I don't think there's any question about this. I mean, I don't think anybody who is familiar with the realities of the whole Russiagate story can have any doubt at all about who's got the better command of facts in this exchange. I mean, Gowdy undoubtedly does. Gowdy makes a further point, by the way. It's a very important point, and which is that he discusses, and we've talked about this before, we talked about this when we talked about the Inspector General's report into the FBI, Mr. Horowitz's report, the point about the enormous bias that existed within the FBI conducting this investigation. And Gowdy makes the point that he's never come across anything like that in his career. And remember, this is a distinguished and lengthy career. This is a man who knows what he's talking about there. And he is right. I mean, this is extraordinary bias. It's extraordinary bias in an investigation which is going nowhere, that Rosenstein is keeping alive, notwithstanding which there is nothing more going to come, because there isn't anything there. And that's the reality.
Right, okay. So now let's look at an even more heated interaction. I mean, this one was very heated, and this is between Jim Jordan and Rod Rosenstein. So let's take a look at this video. There's been a lot of debate about the aggressive nature of Jordan, and also about, once again, as you put it, Rosenstein's stonewalling and smugness as well in this exchange. So let's take a look at this video, and after the video, you can break it down for us, Alexander.
Mr. Rosenstein, why are you keeping information from Congress?
Congressman, I am not keeping any information from Congress that it's appropriate.
In a few minutes, Mr. Rosenstein, I think the House of Representatives is going to say something different.
I don't agree with you, Congressman. I don't believe that's what they're going to say, and if they do, they'll be mistaken.
I disagree, but I think in a few minutes, the House of Representatives is going to go on record saying you haven't complied with requests from a separate and equal branch of government, that you haven't complied with subpoenas, and you got 7 days to get your act together. I think that's what's going to happen in a few. And that's not Jim Jordan. I think that's a majority of the House of Representatives. In just a few minutes, I think that's going to happen. And I want to know why you won't give us what we've asked for.
Sir, I certainly hope that your colleagues are not under that impression. That is not accurate, sir. And
it is accurate. We have caught you hiding
Mr.
information,
Chairman, can we allow the witness to answer?
Why did you hide the fact that Peter Strzok and Judge Contreras were friends? Why did you redact that in the documents you gave to us? Judge Contreras is kind of important. FISA court judge, more importantly, just as importantly, the judge that heard Mike Flynn's case. Why did you try to hide that from us?
Mr. Jordan, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to respond. I've heard you make those sort of allegations publicly on TV.
I got it
and if you let me respond, sir.
Mr. Chairman, he should be given the opportunity.
Now, Mr. Jordan,
answer.
It's redacted.
I am the Deputy Attorney General of the United States. Okay? I'm not the person doing the redacting. I'm responsible for responding to your concerns as I have. I have a team with me, sir. It's just a fraction of the team that's doing this work, and whenever you brought issues to my attention, I have taken appropriate steps to remedy them. So your statement that I'm personally keeping information from you, trying to conceal information
You're
from
the
the
boss,
American
Mr.
people, is not
Rosenstein.
true. That's correct. And my job is to make sure that we respond to your concerns. We have, sir. Now, I've appointed Mr. Lausch, who is managing that production, and my understanding is it's actually going very well, sir. So I appreciate your concerns.
Again, I think the House of Representatives is going to say otherwise.
But your use of this to attack me personally
Why did you?
is
It's not
deeply wrong.
personal.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. May the witness be permitted to answer the questions?
It's not personal.
The gentleman will suspend. The witness is going to have an opportunity to say whatever he wants at the end of Mr. Jordan's 5 minutes. Until the
It is
end
not
of those
personal.
5 minutes, they're his time.
I appreciate your service. It's not personal. We just want the information. Why did you tell Peter Strzok not to answer our questions yesterday? When I asked Peter Strzok if he'd ever communicated with Glenn Simpson, he gave us the answer he gave us dozens of times. On advice of FBI counsel, I can't answer that question. Why couldn't he answer that question?
Mr. Jordan, I appreciate your sincere concerns, but I didn't give Peter Strzok any instructions. If there was some problem with the instructions he had, I'll be happy to look into it.
Not what his FBI lawyer said.
Mr. Jordan, when you find some problem with a production or with questions, it doesn't mean that I'm personally trying to conceal something from you. It means we're running an organization that's trying to follow the rules, and we're going to respond.
You know what was interesting? When I asked him if he'd ever talked to Bruce Orr, he said he had. Said he had 3 times in 2016 and 2017. Then I asked him, have you ever talked to Nellie Orr? And he said, no, I haven't. I said, well, why can you answer that question? Because Nellie Orr worked for Glenn Simpson, worked for Fusion. He could answer that question, but he couldn't answer because FBI counsel told him he couldn't. He couldn't answer the question whether he'd ever communicated with Glenn Simpson, a journalist. Why couldn't he answer that question?
Mr. Jordan, I appreciate you saying it isn't personal. Sometimes it feels that way. How do I know, sir? I mean, you interviewed Mr. Strzok. I didn't, so I can't
Works
answer.
for you. Doesn't work for us.
There are 115,000 people who work for me, sir.
Mr. Rosenstein, did you threaten staffers on the House Intelligence Committee? Media reports indicate you did.
Media reports are mistaken.
Sometimes. But this is what they said. Having the nation's #1 law enforcement officer threaten to subpoena your calls and emails is downright chilling. Did you threaten to subpoena their calls and emails?
No, sir, and there's no way to subpoena phone calls.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying. I'm reading what the press said. I'm reading what the press said.
I would suggest that you not rely on what the press says, sir.
Well, I didn't ask if there's no way to do it. I asked if you said it.
If I said what?
What I just read you.
No, I did not.
Well, now who are we supposed to believe? Staff members who we've worked with, who've never misled us, or you guys, who we've caught hiding information from us, who tell a witness not to answer our questions? Who are we supposed to believe?
Thank you for making clear it's not personal, Mr. Jordan.
Well, I'm saying the
You should
Department of
believe
Justice.
me because I'm telling the truth and I'm under oath. And if you want to put somebody else under oath and they have something different,
I know these
I'll be
staff
happy to
members.
respond.
Here's my last question. What's so important that you know that you don't want us to know, that you won't give us the documents we're asking for, that the House of Representatives is about ready to go on record saying you should give us? What's so darn important that you will threaten members, at least according to media reports and according to the staff members, threaten members?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Chairman.
What is so important, Mr. Rosenstein?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Rosenstein, Mr. Ray, I do appreciate your work, but I'd also appreciate if the House of Representatives could get the information. We have repeatedly, Mr. Gowdy talked about how long this investigation is going on, how long there's been a special counsel. We started asking for information in July of last year, and some of that is still has not been given to the Congress, still not has been given to this committee, the committee charged with defending the Judiciary Committee. So I appreciate what you do. I just want the information, and we're so frustrated that there is now a resolution on the floor of the House in just a few minutes that will be voted on.
Yeah, time of the gentleman has expired. Mr. Rosenstein will be allowed to respond.
I don't have any control over what resolutions you vote on, sir, and you should feel free to do that. But
The gentleman will suspend it. The time now is the Attorney General's.
If you're interested in the truth, Mr. Jordan, the truth is we have a team of folks. They're Trump appointees and career folks, and they're doing their best to produce these documents. Director Wray explained to you the process. He's got hundreds of people working around the clock trying to satisfy these requests. So whether you vote or not is not going to affect it. You're going to get everything that's relevant that we can find and produce to you. I support this report, sir. I'm not trying to hide anything from you.
The chair.
Okay, so Alexander, the exchange between Jordan and Rosenstein. What are your first thoughts?
Well, I mean, again, Jordan is making the absolutely vital point, the key point, that the Justice Department, and that has to mean Rosenstein in this situation. I mean, Rosenstein can hide behind other people. He can say, as he did at one point, there's thousands of people working for me. I can't be responsible for everything they do. He is the man who is in ultimate charge of this investigation. They have been stonewalling. They are defying Congress. As Jordan pointed out to him, Congress has made its feelings, its views about this crystal clear. And instead of addressing this point head on, instead of being contrite about it, instead of admitting that there have been mistakes, that there have been delays, instead of giving promises that he's going to try and do something to correct these things, Rosenstein is in defiance about that. He's telling the House of Representatives that they're going to get that in a decision that they're going to make shortly about the fact that there's been these delays. The House of Representatives is in effect wrong, that he is right, that he knows better than the elected representatives of the United States. And again, I mean, it was a stonewall. It was not just a stonewall, it was one expressed in very arrogant terms. And that's how it came across to me.
One of the things that Jordan said in the exchange was that, you know, you're the boss, essentially, and the buck stops with you. Rosenstein admitted, yeah, I'm the boss, but someone else is his boss, and that's Trump.
Well, I think that's been the question right the way through. I think people need to always remember the politics of this thing. Yes, Donald Trump can step in and order documents to be released. If they did that, then Rosenstein, the people in the Justice Department, the Democratic Party, the FBI, the media, they would all raise an almighty storm. They would say, this is Donald Trump once again interfering in an investigation. And that, I think, Donald Trump, up to now, has simply not been politically strong enough to do. What you see with people like Representative Jordan and Representative Gowdy that we spoke about before, what you see even more with the vote that the House of Representatives has just passed, which Jordan touched upon in his discussions with Rosenstein, is that this is beginning to shift. The ground is beginning to shift, and representatives, Republicans in Congress, are starting to come round to seeing what is going on. They're complaining about it, they're complaining about these delays, and perhaps before very long, Donald Trump will feel that he is politically strong enough as head of the executive to order the Justice Department to do what it is clearly not prepared to do.
What do you think Rosenstein's hiding?
Well, I think that
if you had to take a guess,
so often. I mean, what I think he's hiding is the fact that, I mean, you've used in many of your articles in the Duran the expression witch hunt about the Russiagate investigation. And I find it extremely difficult to see it as anything else. I mean, the point is, this was a threadbare investigation. It was brought by the FBI and by the Justice Department without any proper basis of fact. I mean, it relied disastrously on this extraordinary dossier that Christopher Steele put together, which I don't think anybody takes seriously anymore. It relied on extraordinary amount of innuendo, which just doesn't really look like it amounted to anything. There were all kinds of intercepts, all sorts of things, and the reality is, and I think this is becoming extremely clear now, that what drove it all the way, right from the beginning, was that there was a very powerful political motivation behind it. And the point was that there were some people in the Justice Department, in the FBI, in the US intelligence community, and of course in the Obama administration, who were determined that Donald Trump would not become president of the United States. And they used all the levers of the Justice Department, the FBI, the US deep state to prevent that happening. Now, Rosenstein himself, to be absolutely clear about this, was right at the centre of all of this. He signed off some of the FISA warrants that were, well, one of the FISA warrants that was made against Carter Page, who was one of the Trump aides, who was being investigated and who was placed under surveillance on the strength of this dossier. This extraordinary dossier that Christopher Steele cobbled together. And amazingly, Rosenstein wouldn't even admit that he read the affidavit, the request for the FISA warrant properly before he signed it off. So I mean, we have this vast can of worms that is there, and I think he's trying to keep the lid on that can of worms screwed shut. That's what I think is happening.
Okay, so to close out your analysis, I want to ask you a two-part question. Should Rosenstein, should he recused himself, or should he recuse himself, number one? And number two is, I heard on Fox News, I forgot who said it, that Rosenstein's not really working for Trump. He's actually working for Mueller. So would this be a reason why he's not recusing himself? What do you think of those two threads?
Well, right. First of all, should he recuse himself? It has been repeatedly put to him that he should. He has repeatedly resisted it. Now, I have to say, there are concerns about Rosenstein's position. As I said, he signed up one of these FISA warrants. So, I mean, he is effectively a part of this investigation. He played a role in it before the special counsel was appointed. He is also somebody who is close to Mueller. They have a personal friendship, which I think calls into question whether the two should be working alongside, when the two are friends in this way. So I think that already there are issues there. Now, I think that for appearance's sake, I think it would be better if he did recuse himself. I think he seems to be closer to the events, to the details of events, than frankly Jeff Sessions, who is the Attorney General of the United States, who recused himself because he had two completely innocuous meetings with the Russian ambassador. So I think the answer is probably yes, Rosenstein should. Now, is Rosenstein in charge, or is Mueller in charge? What the dynamics between the two men is exactly, I don't know. But what I would say is this: Mueller uses Rosenstein as his shield. Mueller is able to do all of these things that he has been doing. He's been able, for example, to go before the court in the Manafort case and say that he's got authority to do this and that against Manafort, even though that isn't written down in his original instructions, because he's always able to say, well, actually, Rosenstein has given me permission to do these things. So Rosenstein is, in effect, Mueller's alibi for all the things that Mueller is doing. He gives Mueller, if you like, the protection that Mueller needs to be able to act as Mueller does. So who of the two of them is the dominant partner? I am not sure. I'm not really sure that it matters very much, because it's quite clear to me that the two are working very closely in concert, and we saw in the answers that Rosenstein gave to Gowdy that he's not prepared to close Mueller down.
Real quick, Alexander, before we finish, how close do you think we are to finally seeing an end to this Russia collusion hoax?
Right, I think in some ways, actually, the major issue has already passed. If you go back a couple of months ago, I mean, people really did believe something was going to come out of this thing. I think fewer and fewer people, very few people now believe that. Donald Trump's approval ratings are rising. I don't think people any longer think that he was a Russian agent. I mean, I always thought that was absurd. But some people believe it. I think fewer and fewer people are believing it. The actual investigation, the Mueller investigation itself, how long will it roll on? Here I am not sure. I think I come back to this. If the Republicans are able to hold the House in the November elections, which is a tall order, but perhaps not an impossible one, I think they will insist on bringing this thing to an end. I cannot see it continuing much beyond November. I think if the Democrats take control of the House in November, I think they will try and keep it going for a little longer. But I come back to the point that we made previously. I think there will come a point when the President himself will say, enough is enough, come forward, tell us what your evidence is, tell us where your investigation is going. If not, I'm going to take measures which will in effect shut it down. And I think at that point, given where we are now, the Republicans in Congress will support him, and that will be the end of it.
I think I agree with you. I think from whichever optics you're looking at this, I think we are heading towards a final stretch, whether it's Trump putting the brakes on this thing or the Republicans winning the House, and they're going to essentially wrap this up. I think we are coming towards some sort of finality. How much damage this is going to do to the DOJ and the FBI and these institutions, I think, remains to be seen.
Yes, I think one point we should make is, of course, this may be the end of Russiagate. It may be the end of the Mueller investigation. It may not be the end of the investigations as such, because there will be certainly within the Republican Party, and I suspect on the part of Donald Trump himself, who will want to see the malpractices which we now know happen within the FBI and the DOJ. They will want to see those investigated. So we could see one investigation, the Mueller investigation, ending, and an entirely new and separate investigation beginning. And that will be a very interesting investigation indeed, because whereas the Mueller investigation is investigating essentially nothing, that will be investigating things that we know took place.
A true draining of the swamp that Trump promised.
Well, indeed.
Excellent. Thank you, Alexander, once again for an incredible analysis on what was an incredible testimony on Capitol Hill. Guys, if you like that video, click on the subscribe button down below. Also, click the notifications bell to get notifications every time we push out a new video. And please visit the Duran shop, pick up a shirt, help support the Duran. Until next time, take care.